Good coffee. Black Rifle Coffee Company. Good coffee. Okay. Good morning. Good afternoon. And good evening to some. This is Johnny B. And today, I'm going to go over an organization. And this organization is called Now This Opinions. And what they are is they are a cultural Marxist group acting as a advocacy group. Okay, so they're acting as if they are a advocacy group that's trying to just wake people up. Cultural Marxism is using identity politics, culture, to change a society, change a way people think. All right, Timo wants to say hi. Hi, Timo. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to go back inside. It's a little muggy outside. Okay. All right. All right. So I want to go over this because it's important that you guys understand that this stuff has been talked about for years and years and years. In fact, there's a Russian, his name was Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov talks about the ideological subversion in the four stages of it: the demoralization stage, the destabilization stage, and the crisis stage, and the normalization stage. In the destabilization stage, he talks about how it's imperative that they set up these fix-it groups. These fix-it groups are there to try to prepare for a communist revolution. They're there to help ease into a communist bend. What this group likes to do is they like to make it appear like they're waking people up by letting people know how offensive they are. In other words, we are woke, we're trying to wake you up, and if you don't agree with us, then you're no longer woke, and you must be, therefore, be a misogynist, a bigot, a racist, a Islamophobe, a homophobe, and everything else. Okay? Therefore, they can use it for political gain. Look at these people. Is this the type of people you want? Vote them out. Okay? You'll never, ever see an advocacy group, and they're not really advocacy groups. All they are is political activists. But you'll never see an advocacy group such as this ever vote for a conservative. No. They are always far leftist group. Here's the point that none of these people see, is that these people are literally acting on behalf of a group that's even more sinister than them. I'm not going to go into that here. And the reason is because you're not awake enough to accept that knowledge. So the first thing that we have to do is wake you up a little bit at a time to letting you understand and letting you see what's actually going on out there on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the news, if you want to call it the news. Okay? It's nothing more than just propagandist bullshit, especially even Fox News is becoming that way. Over 50% of it is just horse crap. Okay, it is. I only watch a few programs on Fox because most of it's dog shit. But the other stuff, CNN is completely dog shit. MSNBC, completely dog shit. And now even the other channels, NBC, ABC, CBS, they are as well. They've all become far left-wing activists for the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party has veered so far left into socialism. They call themselves Democrat Socialists. And here's one of the reasons why. It's changing words and terminology. It's a step process, and they will change it again. We're trying to let everyone know, you're freaking socialists. You're freaking socialists. And socialism leads to communism. No, we're Democrat Socialists. It's different. Okay? So changing terminology deconstruction of a term is created by a Marxist Jew, a French revolutionary by the name of Jacques Derrida, who also taught at Yale. And deconstruct a word. And Noam Chomsky believed that a word was kind of like pliable, that it can change over a period of time. It can change over. It can change whenever a society feels that it wishes to do so, or an advocacy group wishes to do so. Let's just go over a period of time over what black people used to be called. And long before there was political correctness, they used the term the N-word. We can't even say the word anymore. It's considered, they've taken that word away. They won. They took that word away. The N-word. Okay? They can say it to themselves, but we can't. In other words, you're already starting to see a separatism. In other words, white people are racists. Okay? White people are bigots. Okay? But you will see black people call themselves that all the time, or call others that are that all the time. Just watch the new Dave Chappelle show. He uses that word all the time, and no one says anything because he's black. If a word is considered a racist term, it's so bad that you have to use it by an axiom. So, the N-word. Then it should be bad for everybody. Here nor there. Let's move on. Then they were called Negroes, right? Then they were called colored. Remember, no coloreds allowed to drink from the water fountain, like colored people's water fountain, like that. Okay, in the 60s. And then it went from that to Afro-American, I believe, to black, to African-American. Now it's like, so they constantly change it. And the reason they constantly change the term, what is not considered impolite to use, is to always hold the narrative, control the narrative, have it forefront on people's mind that they are racist and that there is an oppressive group out there. It's done on purpose. Okay? It's done on purpose. The word, the F word, F-A-G, right? And continue that word on and on and on, or that letter, the spelling on. Okay? That's considered an offensive word, right? Okay? In Great Britain, it's considered, just those three letters is considered a cigarette. Not offensive. But in the United States, it's considered a bad word describing homosexuals. Now even saying homos for some people in the homosexual community is considered bad. And they're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to say what you can and cannot say as well. Always try to control the narrative. Switch it, flip it. But another thing that is done is to try to switch meanings for political gain, like the word nationalist. Okay? You're a white nationalist. Try to tie things improperly together. That way they can associate white people are therefore ... Nazis, they're bigots and racists. Okay? All right? It's improperly done, and not enough people are pointing it out. I am pointing it out because it's a necessity to point it out that the left has continually tried to put people as white nationalists must be far left wing or far right wing, excuse me. But they don't know the political spectrum chart. Because if they did, they knew the political spectrum chart, they'd see that. See, I've drawn it out and many times. Many times, okay? So, that's a political spectrum chart. Alright. You go over the 25 points of Nazism. Nazism is very left-wing, It's based off of socialism, and it's based off of bigotry. Just because they are white doesn't make them right wing. There's this weird thing going on that if you're black, you must be left wing. If you're white, you must be right wing. That's not how it works. It goes on based on the ideology. Do you believe in totalitarianism? Do you believe in inequality? Do you believe in more liberty, less liberty? Do you believe in authoritarianism? That's how it's based. It's not based on your skin color at all. Okay? So since they are both totalitarianistic, they both believe in collectivism, they both believe in racism. Okay? They both believe in the amount of authority. They both believe in inequality. Okay. So let's find out how this is trying to propagate more and more bullshit, so to try to turn the minds of people into believing either white people are racists, or into believing whatever they have to spew so they can move towards political gain. Let's watch. This is my first time watching it.
I came here, I just saw Turkey as a bridge. This is Ali.
Okay, look at the guy to begin with. He's a freak, right? He got the nose ring, he's Ali, so he's Muslim. My guess is he's gay too. He kind of looks a little gay. Alright, but let's find out. He may not be. Let's find out.
He's a queer refugee who escaped from Iran.
There we go. A queer refugee who escapes from Iran. By the way, that's another thing we'll talk about, is how the LGBT community is trying to bleed themselves into calling themselves conservatives, trying to change the terminology of conservatives. We're gay, we're queer, we're this, we're that, then we're conservative. No, you're not. You're not going to steal our term, okay? We'll go over that later. But let's listen.
He made his way here, to Turkey, where he was eventually promised a new life in America.
The U.S. has traditionally taken people who were among the most vulnerable.
They told us you should be in America between 2 weeks and 2 months later.
But that's not what happened. Because there was another story unfolding thousands of miles away that would leave Ali stranded with nowhere to go.
Okay, the first thing that they're doing is trying to build sympathy. Build sympathy. It must be Donald Trump's fault. Okay, so let's go for it.
And then Trump came and suddenly introduced a travel ban, and it was like, what's happening?
Now that people are staying here for years and years, it's putting people under a lot of pressure.
The situation for LGBTs in Turkey.
So why is it the responsibility of the United States to hold them? Why is it our responsibility to take him? Think about that.
Gotten worse. There were, several refugees that they were killed.
In those times it was started. Oh my God, what should I do? It's like a prison for me. It's like a prison big as the city.
I've come to Turkey at a time of uncertainty for queer refugees that are living here. I'm on my way to a city named Denizli to meet Ali, a 31-year-old queer refugee from Iran who never thought that he'd be stuck here for years.
Let's stop right there. How hard did they have to search to find a queer Muslim? How hard? Is that what the ban was really for? Was for that one person, that queer Iranian, that queer Persian? Is that what it was based on? No. But that is what activist groups or these supposed advocacy groups do. They try to search and search and search for that one little thing that doesn't make sense to them, rather than the norm of what's going on, which is terrorism.
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Welcome to Turkey. Most of the morning that I woke up is the same. When I woke up, I check my phone did I receive any new emails or there's any new message on my profile for my process. And if I didn't receive, I said, okay, don't pay attention to that. I start my day. Every day is repeating. It's like a deja vu. This is confusing. You can't plan for yourself. It's like in box made of the iron.
Simple question. He's living in Turkey. Looks like he has a lot of things there. Is he working? Does he have a job? It doesn't look like he's homeless. What's wrong with Turkey? Oh, because they don't allow gays? So, it's our responsibility.
You are inside and you can't do anything. It's like a jail, exactly like a jail.
Instead of being like a jail, if they were to change who they were, then they wouldn't be in the jail. But instead, it must be everybody else's fault because of how he behaves. It must be the fault of the United States because he wishes to be gay.
What will be happen? What should I do? Is this correct way that I choose or not? How can I survive myself? How can I earn money? All of this question is asking me when every morning that I woke up to end of the night.
So being a refugee in Turkey, you're not provided housing, you're not provided food or a stipend for food, you're not allowed to work, and you're not allowed to leave this city. So how are you supposed to survive?
This is a big question in my mind.
Ali's an artist, and he's able to make some money by selling his work online.
And sometimes that I can't earn money enough for my month. At the end of the month, I
Stop. There's something wrong with that. Because I remember going and living in Europe for a little bit, Netherlands in particular. This guy's got a house. He says he's not allowed to provide for himself, but he's living. He's got a place to sleep. He's got a nice bed. Yeah? He's living in a nice flat. Who provided that for him? Who provided that for him? He's not allowed to work. Yet he's allowed to collect money. Where's that money go? In a bank? How's he pay for that rent? Nobody thinks of these things. They just listen to the story and like, oh, they make it sound like the guy's homeless. Does it look like he's homeless? Does it look like the guy is starving? No.
someone packed out, oh, there's not enough money. And I called to my mom and she helped me.
So he's getting money from home. Why the fuck did he leave? Why is it our responsibility to accept him? Because he's gay? Why not go to Europe? They accept gay people.
But other queer refugees aren't as lucky and don't have a family to fall back on.
In my childhood, every time I remember that I said my mom, I'm bored, and my mom gives me a piece of the paper and the pencil. Yeah, you can paint it. Every time she told me, you are an artist, you can be a good artist. The only thing that I love is art. I really wanted to working as a queer art. To create some photography about the LGBT people, as it was too hard, it's too risky.
That's because these photos could cost him his life. Ali always knew it was risky living as a queer person in Iran, but then he started to receive anonymous threats online because of his artwork.
I decided to leave Iran.
Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, being gay in Iran is a crime, and the punishment for that crime is the death penalty.
The danger that the LGBT people are facing today.
And yet, the leftists love people like Sarsour. All these leftists believe in Islam. Are you fucking confused yet? They will be bedfellows until one day one of them is going to eat the other one alive. Because they can't coexist. You can't have the social justice warrior LGBT community and then have Islam. You can't. One's going to eat the other alive. Why? Because the left always eats the left alive. Always.
Is exactly same as the danger that they faced 40 years ago when the Islamic Republic of Iran came into power. And there is a common belief that homosexuals should be killed.
That's Arsham Parsi. He's a gay man who escaped from Iran nearly 15 years ago. He now runs a nonprofit that helps queer refugees, like Ali, who are waiting in Turkey. It's hard to know just how many queer people have been executed in Iran since 1979, but some estimates put that number between 4,000 and 6,000 people. And we know it's still happening. In September 2014, Ali packed his bags, boarded a flight, and escaped to Turkey, one of the largest destinations for Iranian refugees.
For Iranians, traveling to Turkey is much easier than other countries. They don't need visa, they just have a passport, and that is why Turkey became a hub for a lot of Iranian refugees.
Queer Iranian refugees used to wait in Turkey for up to 2 years before being resettled in places like the United States or Canada, but not anymore. When you all came to Turkey, did you imagine that you would be here this long?
No. I didn't think about it. Archie says I thought I was going to be here for 6 months, and now it's 5 years.
That's our team, Farman and Mona. They are just a few of Ali's friends who've been waiting here just like him.
Generally, the only option you have here as a refugee or an asylum seeker is wait. Like, there is nothing that you can do to change anything or to fasten. Is it that? Like, everything in my mind is now Turkish. Yeah, dude, you don't have any choice.
Over 2 years had passed as Ali went through the intense vetting process required to be resettled in America. He traveled to Istanbul for a U.S. cultural orientation.
Who does it benefit if they come to America? Of all these type of refugees, do you think it benefits conservatives or the Democrats? Democrats. Of course they want people like this in. It's a vote. And of course the Democrats believe in illegal voting. People.
They say in that moment you will be in America between 2 weeks or 2 months later. I came home, yes, I should pack my bag.
But on January 27, 2017, everything changed. In his first week in office, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order implementing a travel ban, which targeted a series of Muslim-majority countries, including Iran. It also halted all refugee admissions to the U.S.
I thought to myself, where should I go? Which country is open their doors to me? It was like a nightmare. And it's still like a nightmare for me.
But it wasn't just the ban. Since then, President Trump has also slashed the number of refugees that the U.S. admits every year to historic lows.
Turkey opened the doors to him. He's living in Turkey. They're not killing him. He can go anywhere in Europe. Go to the Netherlands, go to Belgium, go to France. Germany. Why does he have to come to the United States?
Putting some of the world's most vulnerable refugees at risk of further danger. And that policy is why Ali remains in Turkey, just waiting for his ticket to America.
There are 26 million refugees on Earth. Some of them are okay in the places to which they fled. It's not a good existence, but they're safe for the moment. But there are a piece of that population where they're still endangered.
That's Ann Richard. She was the leading Obama administration official responsible for the U.S.'s refugee resettlement program between 2012 and 2017.
These are families that have been split apart. Maybe members are missing. They may be ethnic or religious minorities. And also LGBTQ refugees may have fled somewhere and their old culture was a threat to them. But the place to which they fled, they're still threatened because of who they are.
Turkey hosts nearly 4 million refugees, far more than any other country in the world. But life isn't always easy once they get there, especially if they're queer.
The Turkish policy was to spread refugees out throughout the country. This was a dilemma then. You had refugees being sent away from larger communities that they could have been part of their same ethnicity, same national origin, out to the countryside.
Why don't you want that to happen? That's a smart move by Turkey. Why don't you want a bunch of refugees gathered together? Because that's when you start a revolt. Because then you start this whole Marxist bullshit where they're oppressed and they start revolting, they start rioting. That's exactly a good reason why they make sure that they're diasporic all over the place, is to try to make sure that they don't gather. Okay? Secondly, if you're going to be in Turkey, you might as well actually learn the Turkish laws, learn the Turkish language. Okay? And that's a good idea. You never want these refugees, because that's a leftist movement. You never want these refugees to be gathered all together. That was actually smart on Turkey's part.
They're feeling very isolated and not getting much in terms of services.
There is a big shock for every refugee who go to Turkey that I had another expectation, but this is in the reality and it's totally different. Most of them, they're not prepared.
And queer refugees like Ali.
Sign right there. Okay.
The $1 movers deal.
Well, I know it looks like a lot of stuff here, but between the three of you guys,
I hate that shit. Okay, that's enough anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do is... Okay. I'm going to end it here. You guys are starting to get the point, what it's all about. You're getting the point. All right? Peace out.